Chapter 1, The Good Girl. That was me. Hi, I'm Tamela. And just like so many women, I was undeniably the good girl. For years, my life moved in a familiar rhythm, making sure everyone around me was okay. My family, my friends, my colleagues. I was the reliable one, the caregiver, the one people could always count on. My yes came quickly and easily, even when my body was tired. My spirit was quiet, and my own needs were nowhere in sight. I gave before I checked in with myself. I showed up even when I was depleted. I held space while slowly disappearing from my own life. And the truth, I didn't even realize I was doing it. The irony of all this giving was that it left me standing on the outside of my own life, longing for more fulfillment, more peace, more connection that felt mutual and nourishing, more room to simply be. I wanted more for myself, yet I had no idea how to ask for it, or if I even was allowed to. Most days, I was the last one considered, if I was considered at all. What's important for you to know is this. This pattern wasn't rooted in bitterness or blame. It wasn't anyone's fault. It was inherited, learned, passed down like a heavy, invisible heirloom, quietly, lovingly, and unconsciously. I didn't create the good girl. I learned to be her. I learned to be her by watching the powerful women who raised me. My mother, who carried the weight of her world with grace and silence. My aunts and grandmothers, whose love language was service, endurance, and self-sacrifice. My teachers, my friends' mothers, the women praised for being strong, selfless, and so good. They showed me, without ever saying it out loud, what it meant to be an acceptable woman. Be agreeable. Be helpful. Be available. Don't take up too much space. And whatever you do, don't rest too long. This was a silent curriculum of my upbringing, a blueprint that taught me how to be and pour endlessly outward while disconnecting from myself. For decades, I followed those rules faithfully, believing that love had to be earned through overgiving, and that rest was something you had to deserve. But something inside of me began to stir. The quiet ache of wanting more grew louder. My body started to speak. My nervous system began asking for something different, something softer, truer, more sustainable. And that's when I realized the work in front of me wasn't about becoming better. It was about unlearning. Unlearning the belief that my worth was tied to how much I gave. Unlearning the fear that rest would cost me everything. And unlearning the idea that wholeness required self-abandonment. Now, this book is the beginning of that unlearning, not just for me, but for you too. Because if you're here, there's a good chance you've been the good girl as well. And maybe, just maybe, your body is ready to rest. And remember who you are and who you were before the rules. The body knows before the mind does. Now, my awakening didn't arrive as a polished insight or a motivational quote. It arrived through my body. For the first 3 years of my business, I was a dysregulated healer. I didn't have the language yet, but my nervous system knew. I was giving my offerings away for free or for very little, convincing myself that I was being of service, that I was helping, that this was love. But what it was really revealing was how little I valued myself. My body was exhausted. My chest carried a constant tightness. My jaw held tension I didn't know how to release. My nervous system lived in overdrive, always reaching, always proving, always giving. Because somewhere deep inside, I believed that rest and receiving were unsafe. I told myself I was serving others, but I wasn't actually serving anyone, not the way I thought. Because when service comes from an empty cup, it isn't service, it's survival. I had dedicated my work to helping women cultivate self-love, regulate their nervous system, and fill their own cups first. Yet behind the scenes, I was fighting myself every step of the way, teaching what I was still learning to embody, preaching rest while fearing it, guiding worthiness while negotiating my own. At the end of 2024, something in me whispered, no more. But unlearning doesn't happen overnight. So I committed to myself. I worked on me deeply throughout 2025. I rode the waves, the clarity, the collapse, the recalibration, the moments of confidence followed by moments of doubt. My body was learning a new way of being, and learning isn't linear. Then came the moment that changed everything. One day, my mother's bank account was emptied after we used it at Walmart. And when we realized it happened, she was heartbroken, and so was I. Not just because of the loss, but because something primal cracked open inside of me. I had a business. I had gifts. I had vision. And yet, I couldn't help her without skipping a beat. That truth landed like a weight in my chest, a sinking feeling in my stomach, a deep, quiet grief. Not a shame, grief. Because I finally saw with clarity I couldn't bypass anymore. What my under-earning and over-giving had actually cost? Thank goodness for the people of TikTok who showed up when I shared what happened. And still, I was disappointed in myself. Not in a way that was cruel, but in an honest one. The moment made it undeniable. I could not continue calling self-abandonment service. I could not teach women to choose themselves while refusing to fully choose myself. The nervous system was done negotiating. Recently, I heard a statement from a creator named Carmen Badan that stopped me in my tracks. Until you love yourself, service is just people pleasing and spiritual drag. Before my mind could even process these words, I felt that sentence hit my body. There was another guiding moment for me, a realization that I simply couldn't continue to give away everything I have because it wasn't just hurting me, it was hurting my family too. That was the day my body decided no more shrinking, no more spiritualizing struggle, no more refusing worth with sacrifice. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about integrity, alignment, and coming home to myself fully. And that is where the good girl began to loosen her grip. In embodied declaration, I choose to come home. I no longer need to prove my goodness through exhaustion. My body is not a tool for sacrifice. It is a home for my truth. I release the belief that my worth is measured by how much I give, how little I need, or how quiet my desires are. I am allowed to take up space. I am allowed to rest without losing everything. I am allowed to receive without guilt. I listen now when my body speaks. When it tightens, I pause. When it softens, I trust. When it asks for rest, I honor it. I am unlearning the reflex to abandon myself in the name of love. I am unlearning the story that says I must earn safety through service. I am unlearning the good girl who believed survival required self-erasure. I choose regulated presence over performance. I choose integrity over approval. I choose life where my nervous system feels enough to exhale. Today, I lay the good girl down gently, not in rejection, but in gratitude. She kept me safe when she had to, and now she gets to rest. I am whole. I am resourced. I am allowed to build a life and a business that sustains me. This is where I began, not from proving, but from embodied truth.